For Biggs, quite frankly, he probably needs someone of the female persuasion on the ticket. He has to soften his image.
Governor Katie Hobbs and Republican nominee Andy Biggs are getting ready to name their running mates, the Arizona's first ever lieutenant governor.
Well, Hobbs needs someone who can do what she can't, which is give an interview, be on TV,
Really basic stuff.
speak English without 17 ums in one sentence. She just needs someone who voters can hear from.
Welcome to Notas. I'm your host, Elvia Diaz. In this episode, political consultant Barry Marson unpacks the governor's race. Barry Marson, thank you. Thank you for joining Notas.
Thanks for having me on, Elvia. How are you today?
Oh, very, very well. Before we get into names about the running mates, what's the biggest takeaway from you since the primary, since Andy Biggs was elected as a Republican nominee?
Yeah, excuse me. Well, for the last couple of weeks, really Andy Biggs, felt that he had the primary sewn up and he won over 70% of the vote, close to 75%. So, he is looking to show those moderate Republicans, in right-leaning independents, that he can be bipartisan, that he is a big tent Republican. He's trying to, quite frankly, have a makeover, an Andy Biggs makeover that, he hasn't really been bipartisan over the years. And, but he's trying to show a bill here and a bill there. But there are very few people who are as partisan as Andy Biggs when he was Senate president or when he was a House member and certainly as a congressman. Though, he's doing the right things. He's, in my mind, saying some of the right things to try to expand his appeal. The problem is he's got a record. He's got a long record.
So he's not going to be able to do that easily. Essentially,
no, it will not be
a
easy.
remake is essentially lying to voters. Is that know?
No, it's not lying, but he has some concrete examples of people that Democrats that he's worked with. Well, when you have as long of a history as he does, he's going to have to work with someone of the opposite party, and so he's done a little bit of that. That's for sure. But he's trying to talk about really how much he has done that throughout his career. He's trying to kind of puff it up a little bit, and his voting record belies that, unfortunately for him.
Well, that's going to be something very interesting to look at. What qualities do you think Hobbs and Biggs need the most in a running mate? And you clearly outline Biggs' challenges right now.
For Biggs, quite frankly, he probably needs someone of the female persuasion on the ticket. He has to soften his image, in addition to just, again, his, kind of gruff white male posture. He's got a terrible voting record when it comes to issues such as child predators, like in Colorado City, which Governor Hobbs has already started to highlight. Spousal rape, I'm sure, is going to become an issue in this election. Andy Biggs would not support Andy Biggs, Russell Pierce, I believe Eddie Farnsworth, and Chuck Gray. This is all the way back in 2005. They would not support a new law of spousal rape. That is probably going to be an issue in this campaign. So I think Andy Biggs really needs to be looking at having a woman on the ticket just to soften his image a little bit.
And it has to be a moderate woman, right? Otherwise, he's going to end up in the same situation that he is right now because he's extremely conservative.
Yeah. And so, some of the people that he is already looking at are Leah Marquez Peterson, who serves on the Corporation Commission. She's won a couple of statewide elections. She's Hispanic. She's from Tucson. She adds a lot of, she checks a lot of boxes. And the same with Sine Kerr, who is a former state senator from Yuma. She also checks a lot of boxes. Rural, excuse me, from Yuma, really, conservative as well, but more of a normal conservative wing of the state party. So he's got a couple of those choices if they want it. I'm sure one of them could have it.
And how about Hobbs?
Well, Hobbs needs someone who can do what she can't, which is give an interview, be on TV,
Really
speak
basic stuff.
speak English without 17 ums in one sentence. She just needs someone who voters can hear from and actually with a cogent sentence. So, uh, I think, they're both looking for different things. I don't know that Hobbs needs a Tucson person. I think, you and I think the whole reason you invited me on is because you saw a tweet of mine about Regina Romero, the mayor of Tucson. Frankly, I don't think she's near the top of the list. If Katie Hobbs needs someone, to burnish her credentials in Tucson and among the Hispanic community, well, maybe she's got more problems than we think. She can have geographic diversity. She can have, a man or a woman. She's not as hemmed in as, say, Congressman Biggs is with his pick. But again, she does need someone who maybe presents better on TV or in interviews than she does.
Well, Regina Romero was not at the top of my list either of, and other people that I have talked to. But there is already an attack ad against her, the one that you shared on social media. Does that tell you that she is, for some reason, still seriously being considered, or that was strictly between or about the Representative Ciscomani race?
Right. That was, the ad from Congressman Ciscomani that mentions Mayor Romero in the race against Joanna Mendoza. That is simply about that race. I hear her polling in the Tucson area is not very good, and so the Ciscomani campaign, I think, is trying to really tie Romero in with Mendoza. She did endorse her and highlight that endorsement actually because uh, Romero's not popular right now in Tucson. So I think that is it's simply about that. Had nothing to do with the lieutenant governor stakes.
So, what other names are you hearing for Governor Hobbs?
Well, obviously there had been a lot of talk about Jimmy McCain that Katie Hobbs had offered the son of Senator John McCain the running mate position, and he has turned it down. There's also another Republican, uh, John Giles, who former mayor of Mesa, who has endorsed. He's already out there with an endorsement of Katie Hobbs, his second straight endorsement of Hobbs, and on the heels of his endorsement of Kamala Harris. So his name is being floated out. One thing, and certainly this is not a requirement, but the concept of the lieutenant governor came about because Arizona has had so many changes in the governor's office, not through election, whether it was Janet Napolitano being elevated to nominated and selected to be Department of Homeland Security director, Ev Meekum getting impeached, or Fife Symington getting convicted. We had, I'm sorry, Wesley Bolin die in office. So we've had all kinds of needs for a succession from Secretary of State or even Attorney General elevating. And the idea was to have someone from the same party to continue. For instance, when Janet Napolitano went to Washington, Jan Brewer became governor, completely diametrically opposed on policy. So while voters approved of a more liberal person for governor, they had a very conservative uh, Secretary of State and now a conservative governor. So the idea was have someone who really more meshes with your political views. Picking a conservative, John Giles is your typical conservative Republican. Right? He is no lefty liberal. So it would defeat the purpose, which is up to the candidate, but it would defeat the purpose. If something were to happen to Governor Hobbs, if she were to uh, get convicted of a crime, if she were to get into the cabinet, if she was, I'm done with this stupid job, whatever. Now the person taking over would be a conservative Republican who maybe has been an outcast in his own party over the last few years, but inside, John Giles is still a Republican and a conservative Republican at that. So, but his name is out there in pretty heavy rotation. Someone like Anna Tovar, who is a former corporation commissioner, so elected statewide, Hispanic. She lives in the West Valley. Unfortunately, some of the, I guess, law enforcement people that maybe would have been nice to put on the ticket with her have some issues. Sheriff Nanos, who had been a big supporter of Katie Hobbs back in 22, now he's done. He can barely hold on to his job as sheriff in Tucson, or in Pima County, rather, after the whole debacle of the Nancy Guthrie
Right.
investigation. And so there's just not a lot of good choices in that realm. So, uh, but she has pretty wide range of people that she can look to because she doesn't need some of the things that, say, Andy Biggs does.
Right. No, those are excellent points. And what do you make of the Democratic Governors Association pledging 10 million? Clearly, we expected something like that. They're going to spend a lot of money, both sides. But is that an indication of Hobbs' strength, or the opposite, that they are incredibly worried that she is at risk of losing?
It's really neither. It is just the game, if you will.
Right.
The RGA or the DGA, they have fundraisers and they raise big money to spend. You know, no election is guaranteed, right? So I think if you talk to a lot of political pundits, and look at polling, you'll see Hobbs has a lead on Biggs. But we are 3 months and a week away from the election. In today's political world, that's an eternity. And
A
so
lot can happen between now
a
and then.
lot can happen. What will happen with the war in Iran will be sort of a harbinger of how people will vote. We were starting to see gas prices come down to almost pre-war levels, which have been great. They were in the low, like 320, 330 range here in Arizona after being at almost $5 a gallon uh,
Yeah. Yeah, I
during the
remember.
spring. So
People
what
were angry.
happens?
People are still angry
Mhm.
about that, even if they're coming down.
Sure. But in 2 months, if the war, or 3 weeks, if the war completely ends, got an agreement, and gas goes back to the high $2 or low $3 a gallon, well, people won't be as angry or won't be as concerned. So that'll help someone like Andy Biggs. If gas prices go to $5 because the war, or $6, even worse, because the war is ongoing, and it's a real shooting war, continues to be a real shooting war, then that's going to immensely help Katie Hobbs because Andy Biggs supports the war in Iran. So, it's really too far. So both parts. I have no doubt that the RGA is going to spend money here in Arizona. For all the people who are like, "Oh, DJ's putting in 10 million and RGA hasn't put in anything, so they must have given up on the state." I mean, under that logic, 2 days ago, the DGA had given up on had given up on Katie Hobbs. So, just because they were first to announce doesn't mean RGA won't do their own thing, but on their timeline. And they'll look at polling and they'll decide how much money to put into here and who to target. So, it'll be, I'm sure, for both the DGA, the RGA, the Biggs campaign, the Hobbs campaign, they will all look at targeting a very small slice of voters.
Yeah,
And
advertising is very different nowadays, right? It's not just television, which Hobbs is blanketing television stations, as far as I can tell. And Biggs, his first ad after the primary was posted on social media. Does that tell you anything?
Yeah, I mean, that's just the way campaigns are going now. People don't always get their news from television. They get it from podcasts, they get it from Facebook and TikTok, and there's so many channels now where people are getting their news, and so
So he
uh,
might be
you know they,
the smart guy
they
doing it.
will. Well, look, I have no doubt that the Hobbs people, everyone is migrating to the different channels, right? Maybe Biggs will be, focused on more conservative podcasts, Hobbs more liberal podcasts or whatever. But everyone's gonna look at the numbers, they will look at the data, and believe me, there will be a lot of data out there for the campaigns to utilize. And again, we're literally talking about tens of thousands of voters out of the couple of million people who will vote. Campaigns are looking at tens of thousands of voters in very specific areas. If they can sway them, they can
They'll
win the
win.
election. I mean,
And
look, Katie Hobbs won by 17,000 votes 4 years ago against a historically terrible candidate. And uh, so she can't obviously take anything for granted. And the state has only gotten more Republican. Registration in this state has grown for Republicans during the last 4 years of Katie Hobbs. Independents have also grown. But that doesn't necessarily mean we're still, or that, she has the a, a taller hill to climb necessarily. Biggs is actually, in my mind, the underdog here, and he has to convince Republicans. You can candidates always bleed a couple percent of their own party, right? Well, Hobbs is bleeding a couple of percent, 3% or so of her own party. Biggs is bleeding more like 10% of his own party. If moderate Republicans and right-leaning independents continue to vote for Hobbs, then Andy Biggs has a problem.
so I think that's the biggest stake here. Independence, which I mean,
Hmm.
independents make a third of the electorate. You did mention that um, Republicans are leading by 300 and something thousand voter registration. But yeah, independents are the big group here. How about
Absolutely.
Hispanics as well?
Well, look, Hispanics are a large voting bloc, right? I mean, uh, boy, I'm not even sure how much of the state, how big of a population they represent, but obviously they're
About 30%,
significant.
about 30% of the
30%.
population, but
Yeah,
clearly not everyone can vote.
of course. But, you know, um, Donald Trump 2 years ago made significant inroads with the Hispanic voters for Republicans. And in those 2 years, he has, well, washed that away, if you will. Um, you know, I think a lot, and I am not Hispanic, but I think a lot of Hispanics were okay with sealing the border, deporting the worst of the worst. I think a lot of people, Hispanics included, were okay with that concept. I don't think they're okay with taking Abuelita, who has lived a crime-free life for 30 years in this country,
Or
who
US
runs
citizens.
yeah, well, yes, or U.S. citizens. I know a case of even someone from Afghanistan who had helped the U.S. military, who was literally days away from his execution when the U.S. did a prisoner exchange with the Taliban and brought him back to this country eventually. Now he is under threat of deportation. He was in an Eloy detention center for quite some time as they work to hopefully free him. So uh, I don't think Hispanics voted for that. I don't think a lot of people voted for that. They did vote for a stronger border, and there can be no doubt that Trump has done substantial work to seal the border, and it is a trickle compared to what it was under Joe Biden or any other Republican or Democratic president. And that's good. I think that is what people voted for, but
Mhm.
they did not vote for uh, going after day laborers with no criminal records, or people who pick our lettuce, pick our peaches. They didn't want to go after them. People who work in the slaughterhouses in the Midwest, you know, that's just work white folk won't do.
So Andy Biggs is going to have a heck of a time convincing Latinos, I think, that he is not going to be helping deport everyone, not just the worst of the worst.
Yeah, I don't believe that, again, moderate Republicans and independents, certainly Democrats, even those who support a, tough on the border narrative, I don't think they support going after people who are living otherwise legal lives and adding to society. And that's the problem that Andy Biggs has, and it's a problem Republicans will have as we head into this midterm.
Yeah. No, this has been an illuminating conversation with Barrett Marson, a political consultant. What else are you doing nowadays?
Oh, just traveling, trying to travel. I mean, who wants to be in Phoenix when it's 112 degrees?
Yeah.
Definitely trying to travel, and just working on a lot of issues. Staying out of most campaigns for now. Just watching, being an observer is so much better than being in it, where you live and die
Let's
by every little jot and tittle of the day. So it's nice to sort of just be on the outside watching.
Well, you're absolutely watching very closely. Thank you so much. So, what are you looking forward to in the next few weeks to see from either camp?
Well, I mean, we've got, let's see here, it's about 5 weeks or so until the pick for lieutenant governor must be made.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a feeling that each campaign will wait to, see what the other does. And kind of play that chicken, like, oh, we'll announce ours after they announce theirs. But eventually someone's got to go first. And so, but I will be watching that because really, you only have about a month from the deadline to pick lieutenant governor position till early ballots go out. So, quite frankly, for someone like Andy Biggs, I actually think he should want to get someone earlier rather than later, because it's a force multiplier. You now get to send that person out on the campaign trail. They get to do their own events. Now you have 2 people instead of 1, right? And so, Hobbs doesn't need that as much right now. She does have a money advantage, not just the $10 million from the DGA, but she has a lot more money. So, and Andy Biggs has not had the easiest time raising money. He's raised more money than he's ever raised in his political life, but it still isn't able. He's still not in any way able to catch up to Katie Hobbs in the near term. So he's got to start really focusing on fundraising. So it'd be nice to get that second person up there so that they can help on the campaign trail. They can help with fundraising calls. So I'll be watching.
That's the bottom line. That's how it can help. That's why it matters.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yep.
So,
well, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me on.
Appreciate that. If you have enjoyed this conversation, please follow me on YouTube, on Substack. Look for Notas con Elvia Diaz. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Come back anytime.
Thanks. Bye-bye.